Hi, I'm Alistair, the grumpy CIO. And what's my grumpy about this week? Well, risk and org design and how we put them together. It's just something that comes up quite a lot. And I'm just going to say, if you are trying to sell some kind of SaaS stuff, API stuff, tech stuff, and it comes up in many areas in my professional life at the moment, you need to think about all the roles that are required in order to do so. Sounds simple, right? And what's your org design? But it does depend, as I said, on the risk you're actually willing to take. So you need to have all of these things that I've just put together. I've actually even missed some as well. So you need to have BA, product implementation engineer, product manager, CS, sales engineers, HR, compliance, licensing control, infra, network, demand gen, support engineer. All of these things are required. But depending on whether if you're a huge multinational organisation, you have multiple people in each of those boxes. If you're a startup, you are probably about half of them in one person. And it does depend what's coming up. So just go through, like if you are these things, you've got to think about what your org chart is in order to fit in all those bits of your organisational design. So if you're a mid-tier company, here's like a hypothetical thing you might do. You might have your sales, engineering, product, work around customers, core IT, core business functions. Might be a typical thing for a mid-tier company. So you might have your actual salespeople, sales engineers, SDRs. You might have by this stage, people actually doing demand gen. Over into product, you might have specific, BA and product split out. In your corporate core, you might have dedicated payroll as opposed to, it just being part of, something that's done on the finance system. You might actually have something in your dedicated people, to actually do the software provision at this point in time. So just getting laptops for people as well, or the user management, those type of pieces. And for your customers, you might actually have dedicated people actually onboarding them, looking after them, account managers. This would be like a mid-tier thing. If you're like a scale up, you're probably getting there, but like you're a bit smaller. You've got to think, okay, but all those things that came on the first place, they still need to exist. But I might just have all of my IT estate management, which previously I was talking about security, pen testing. You're talking about the actual provision of laptops, probably some related to the instant follow-ups, if not the actual instant management. There might just be a person. All of your corporate core might be a person. Your product might be, you don't have separate BA or those things. You might have a designer. You might have maybe some data analysis. If you've got some external people, you might have just a product manager. Then you've got the engine rooms of building it and making it. So you might have sales engineers, but you might not have SDRs by this type of people. So the sales are their own SDRs. So your organizational design does change dependent on, on your chart changes on the number of where you are on a risk. Where's your risk? So there's more risk taken here because you don't have a dedicated focus. For example, legal and marketing has just disappeared from this. So, but somebody's doing it, which means your corporate core person is probably looking at all of your contracts as well, and they're probably actually just getting from like SaaS solution, like basic employee contracts, basic options contracts. They have to be done by something, but you're taking it down. And if you get to you've got like your startup, you're getting a little bit of traction. You're basically selling it, building it, and everything else. So you might have sales. You might have if there is no separate customer success in the account management area. You've basically got you might have got your first customer success person. You might have your engineers sort of building up, but there's no separate core IT. The same engineering department is also the people provisioning the laptops if someone turns up, and everything else might be done by a person coming in. So when the classic thing, if you have large scale changes in a company, I remember the first time I was involved in major redundancies, which is 20 years ago now. There was a sarcastic remark by someone who said, well, someone's decided that we can make people redundant because legal can be done by marketing. In a startup, actually, legal and marketing are actually quite often done by the same person. There'll be one of the founders actually is in charge of all of it, and they actually just do all of it, and you jump from one to the other. But that's because the risk is palatable at that point in time. Nobody's going to sue a startup; they haven't got any money. And also the reward is there because you're just be involved in selling and building it. Whereas by the time you get to be a mid-tier company, you can't do that. If you notice, I've got legal now as a separate person, a separate role on this. But even in a mid-tier company, you might actually be outsourcing some of that, so there might not be full-time roles in your company. So just saying, as you're doing these things separately, your risk is the thing that you need to measure. What risk am I prepared to take? Therefore, what does my org design have to actually look like? Then can the revenue support the org design? Do I have a business case? Do I have a business? Pretty simple, right? But it's also quite hard to do because a lot of people, particularly when they're going up, just miss bits. And they just go, well, I can't afford to have that person, therefore it's not there. It's like, well, you don't have a business then. So just like you've got to sit there and work it out. So that's it for me this week. It's what I've been working a lot across various parts of professional life, and it's like, what risk do you have to take in order to get the rewards? Thank you very much, all.